Hey, this is Mike with the One Stop Co-op Shop here with a big one, my top 20 games of 2020. I'm doing this video instead of a shelf life video for this month. We'll get back to it, which means this is the one with a contest, so hang on until the end if you want to hear the winner of a free game. So with that said, let's get right into it and see which games made the cut. At number 20, we have Escape the Dark Sector, a solo and cooperative game of surviving and escaping a space station. So you might like Escape the Dark Sector if you like a lot of fun theme and emergent narrative and don't mind quick gameplay that's fairly random, because that's what you're going to get here. A quick little adventure with flipping random cards and resolving everything with dice, battles, and whether you have these crazy encounters. But on the other hand, if you don't like randomness, if you want a more strategic experience, this one won't work for you. But for me, and especially playing with my 8-year-old son, it's a lot of fun. My number 19 game of the year is Obsession, the competitive game set in Victorian England that also had solo play. You might enjoy Obsession if you like mid-weight Euros with some nice tactical combos and with a lot of fun theme, because this game just oozes theme, especially if you like that Jane Austen or Downton Abbey vibe. But if you're not into Euros, I don't think this one will change your mind, and if you have no interest in the theme whatsoever, it might fall a little flat for you, because at least for me, that's one of its major charms. Number 18 is Super Skill Pinball 4K, a solo and competitive roll and write of pinball. You might really enjoy this one if you like the pinball theme, if you like roll and writes with a nice amount of tactics, or if you like roll and writes with variety, because the 4 different pinball tables here feel great and unique. But you might want to avoid this one if you think you'll mostly play it competitive, especially at high player counts, because with the way the competitive game works, one player can finish before the others and just be twiddling their thumbs for a while. Next, my number 17 game is the first war game on the list, Field Commander Napoleon, a solo-only game. You're going to like Field Commander Napoleon if you like fairly straightforward war games, especially ones that mix tactical and operational decisions, because this game has both, including a really fun combat system. And also if you're looking for a lot of variety in your war games, because it has a ton of scenarios. But this one might not work for you if you don't like dice luck, because there's a lot of it here, or if you don't want to spend much or want really premium components, because it's pretty expensive and the tokens are just okay. My number 16 game of the ones I covered this year is Hostage Negotiator, especially with the career expansion. So you could really enjoy Hostage Negotiator if you like dice-based games with a lot of push your luck and tense decisions and a tense theme overall. And if you add the career expansion, like I said, you add on this really cool narrative and these branching choices and kind of a glue that ties the whole experience together. But you might want to avoid this one, like some others I've already said. If you don't like dice luck, they can certainly ruin your day, and that is kind of a core part of the system. And also if you don't plan to expand beyond the core game, because just that isn't going to feel like it has enough content. You really need more abductors and more stuff to play with. Next, at number 15 is Endangered, a cooperative dice placement game. I think you'll really enjoy Endangered if you like dice placement, especially in a cooperative setting, and maybe with more casual players, because it's a pretty straightforward system, but the choices of how to use your dice and how they kind of block spaces for others is excellent. But you might want to avoid this one if you're looking for a ton of variety and aren't willing to spend some more money, because you only get 2 sets of animals in the base game. You can buy the pandas as an expansion, and then there was a new Kickstarter with a ton more content, but if you don't get that, I think the base game could get samey, kind of like Hostage Negotiator. Next, at number 14 is Atlantis Rising 2nd Edition, a solo and cooperative game of saving the people of Atlantis from certain destruction. I think you'll really like Atlantis Rising 2nd Edition if you can get into the tension of the choices, the really tough worker placement, and how the difficulty just ramps up, and it also accommodates a huge swath of player counts, which is really cool. But the big negative you have to watch out for with this one is the potential for lost actions, both because of bad dice rolls or because of cards knocking your workers out of there. You'll sometimes place a bunch of people and have almost none of them accomplish anything, which can be disappointing. Now, I want to pause before I get to the next 3 games, number 13, 12, and 11, because these are games that I have played a ton and are very close to my heart, but I felt a little weird about putting them in my top 10. Because for these 3 games, a large part of my enjoyment is that I designed a solo variant for them, an unofficial one for each of them, and that's one of the main ways I've played them. So if you take that out, I don't know where they would really fit in. They might not have even been covered on the channel. And again, I just felt a little weird putting them too high, but let's get into the 3. At number 13, we have Undaunted Normandy, a 1v1 World War II skirmish game that again has solo play with my variant. I think players who enjoy quick tactical skirmish games will really enjoy this one, and it has some cool elements I haven't seen elsewhere, like a bit of deck building that's a lot of fun. But the main potential complaints about the game that might steer you away, again, are the dice. The dice combat can have a major effect on the game if you roll really well or really poorly, and also some of the scenarios, mainly the very early ones, can feel a bit unbalanced and sometimes end a bit anticlimactically. My number 12 game of the year is one I just covered recently, although I've played it for many years before that, and that is BattleCON. And I think you might like this one if you like tough card play, if you like second-guessing your opponent, and if you love variety, because oh my gosh, the fighters are so different, and it's so much fun just to kind of play around with different matchups and learn the intricacies of each one's strategy. But by the exact same token, you might not like this one if you don't like head-to-head fighting games, if you don't like predicting what an opponent will do and sometimes having things go horribly wrong when you guess wrong, or if you don't want to learn new fighters, because that's a lot of the fun in the game, and if you want something that's just kind of straightforward and the same rules every time, you won't really find that here. And the final game in my group of 3 that I designed a solo variant for is Quirky Circuits, the cooperative programming game. So you're going to like Quirky Circuits if you like programming games where you put cards down to move something around, and if you don't mind limited communication and a bit of chaos, because this game really dives into the idea of players miscommunicating and playing the wrong thing and having stuff go wrong in hilarious ways. If you're not into that, it might fall flat, but if you are, this one is a blast. Alright, so with those 3 kind of oddball games out of the way, let's get into my top 10 games of 2020. At number 10, I have Isle of Cats, another one that I just recently covered, but was playing a whole bunch before that. So you're going to like Isle of Cats best and get the best value out of it if you're like me and will play all 3 modes, both solo and the kind of full game and the family game, which works great for kids and casual gamers. And you'll also like it if you like straightforward but fun polyomino tile placement and a little mixed in tactical card play and drafting. But you might want to avoid this one if you don't like polyominoes, or if you're getting it primarily for solo play and you don't like randomness, because man, that AI game can be swingy. At number 9, I have The Crew, The Quest for Planet 9, a cooperative trick-taking game. You might really enjoy The Crew if you like trick-taking, of course, but also if you have a group of at least 3 players, though I think 4 is better, who are willing to play a whole bunch of hands in a row, because that's where the variety and a lot of the fun come in. On the other hand, you might want to be cautious of this one if you're mainly going to play it 2 or 3 player, because that can really have the swinginess go too high. And honestly, if you don't like swingy hands and you don't like the idea of the cards just kind of falling out the wrong way and making it almost impossible to win, I might avoid this one because that can happen a lot at all player counts. My number 8 game of 2020 is Mutants the card game, with both competitive and solo play. I think you'll like Mutants best if you like quick tactical card play and building combos out of cards either through drafting or deck construction, and especially if you'll play both competitive and solo, because they're both really cool and actually feel quite different from one another. On the other hand, you might want to consider avoiding Mutants if you're primarily going to get it for solo play and you aren't willing to buy at least one of the expansions, because you don't have that many bosses in the main game, and that's where all the solo play comes from. Next, with a 1-2 punch from Lucky Duck Games at number 7, I have Kingdom Rush. And I think you'll like this one if you get into kind of the tension of tower defense, if you're ready for a really, really tough puzzle in solo, or you have cooperative players who can really talk well to each other and enjoy kind of moving their heroes around and fighting. But this one might fall flat for you if you're playing cooperatively based on your group, because you have to give up towers, and sometimes if you don't do it well, one person can end up with too many, and also some of the scenarios can end a bit suddenly, so that can be frustrating, so just be careful about that. Next, my number 6 game of the year and my highest rated historical game, Pendragon, The Fall of Roman Britain. So this is the first year that I dug into the GMT coin series, the counterinsurgency series, and Pendragon is definitely my favorite out of those. You might like this one if you like huge, sprawling, epic conflicts. This is this giant battle kind of trying to control Britain with all these different factions that are quite varied, vying for power. But there is a high likelihood you won't like this one if you're getting it to play solo and you aren't willing to go through some fairly complicated flowcharts to determine what the AI opponents do. You can watch my video and see if it hurts your head or not. Getting into my top 5 games of the year, at number 5 we have one that I covered really recently, which is Under Falling Skies, the solo dice game of defending Earth from aliens. I think you will really love Under Falling Skies if you enjoy dice placement games, especially ones with very tough tactical decisions, because the combination of picking where to put your dice for the actions you need to take and them moving the aliens down to blast you is just genius in this game. On the other hand, you might want to avoid this one if you don't like dice, but also if you're looking for kind of a meatier, longer, more full experience. The campaign they have in the game is fun and I love all the stuff you unlock, but honestly in the end I prefer the one-off play with the great variety it has, and it's a pretty quick game, so if you're looking for some like multi-hour epic, you're not going to get it here. Next, at number 4, and man, I went back and forth between this and Under Falling Skies being at this spot, is Warp's Edge. So I just did my review for this one recently, and I think it's the only game on the list that I also did a Kickstarter review in the same year. They delivered it pretty quickly, but you might like this one if you like bag or deck building, if you like quick tactical combat games. This is a delicious combination of the two. On the other hand, if you don't like bag builders, if you don't like deck builders, if you hate pulling the tokens out of the bag and realizing, oh no, I'm dead because I didn't draw the right things, this one might frustrate you in that case. My number 3 game of the year, thanks again to Nick for sending this one to me, is Dawn of the Zeds 3rd edition in the State of Siege series, defending your town from zombies. I think players will really love Dawn of the Zeds if they get into the theme, if they like emergent narrative, because the stories that can come out of this one are great, and the big thing is if you like variety, because oh my gosh, the different heroes you can play with and the different events that can come out can completely change and reshape the game. But you might want to avoid this one if you don't like dice and card luck, because this can be a very random game. I think it adds to the narrative, but it might frustrate you. And also if you're looking for a more casual, less tense experience, this game can terrify you as the zombies bear down on your town and on your people and kill off your heroes, so just be aware of that mind space. My number 2 game of the year, and by far my most played game of the year, although a lot of that was on Board Game Arena, is Rallyman GT, the racing game. I'm a fan of racing games in general, and Rallyman GT is currently my top racing game of all time. You might like it too if you like really quick, fun, but tactical racing with dice involved, but you might not like it if you don't like dice because they can make you crash if you make a bad call or just push your luck one time too often. And you also might want to avoid this one if you're going to play it mainly solo, which is what I do, but you don't want to play with the fan-created variant bots, because the basic solo time trial mode I don't think is enough by itself. I think you need the bots to really bring the game to its best place. And finally, my number 1 game for 2020, although it did not come out in 2020, and this is a funny one because it's a game that in my opinion has switched on so massively over time. You might already know what it is from that. Too Many Bones from Chip Theory Games. And I think you, like me, will love this game. It might be one of your favorite games of all time if you like the variety of playing around with different characters and different gear locks with their unique skills and abilities, if you like the variety of bosses and the different enemies you'll fight, if you get into kind of like the little stories of the encounters. But you might not enjoy this one if you don't like dice and card draws, because again, there it is. If you only play games true solo, I don't think it's the best look for this game. I really think I enjoy it most, at least with 2 gear locks or more. And finally, if you aren't willing to spend a good amount of money, this is not a cheap game, and even buy some extra stuff on top of the core game, because I think when you get some more gear locks, when you get some more adventures, when you really let the system kind of spread out, that's when it becomes truly magical. But you're looking at like $200+ for all of that. So go in with your eyes open, make sure this is a game you want. So there you have it, my top games of 2020, and again, the top ones that I'm keeping, the ones that I'm going to play with my family, that I have fun with. It's definitely not a judgment call on games that didn't make the list. A big thank you to all of you. A huge thank you for watching the channel, for subscribing, for supporting us, for helping us get to 20,000 subscribers and do all this new stuff for the channel. It's so amazing. Such great things ahead. I'm glad we all survived 2020. And let's look forward to a better year next year. Even more amazing games. Please hang on if you want to hear the winner of the contest. But until next time, good gaming, and I'll see you at the next stop. All right, here we go. Contest time, our last one of the year. And some of the people on our Discord suggested, I think mainly Patrick, so thanks for the idea, that I show the percentages just for kind of comparison. So as you can see, we had just under 200 responses, 174. And Too Many Bones, by far the most voted to be one of my top 20 games. 77% of people chose it. Alter Quest and Rallyman GT were the next closest. Although I will note that Alter Quest, a lot of people re-entered after they saw my review and took it off their list. Warp's Edge at 36%. And I can't even see... Oh, Dawn of the Zeds at 33%. And then we got a whole bunch around like the 25% mark, some at 10%. And let's see, which one got the fewest votes? Mutants, with only 3 people, 1.7% picking it as one of my top 5 games. But with that little information out of the way, let's get to our winner. Or I should say our winners, because we had one person, Rob Cannon, only 1 point off. I think they got my number 1, 2, 3, and 4 correct, but missed number 5 and like put in number 6 or 7, so incredibly close. And then 3, Matthew Powers, Michael Garofalo, and Nick Skeen, who were just 2 games off. They had 3 of my top 5 and 2 of my top 10. So normally Rob would be the only winner, but hey, it's the season of giving, so I thought it'd be nice to give away 4 games in this case. But I am going to randomize out of Matthew, Michael, and Nick, who gets second choice of the list of games I send out after Rob picks his. And normally Patreon supporters would get a double entry, but Matthew, Michael, and Nick all support us on Patreon, so it's still kind of an even roll. So I'm going to determine an order. I'll roll a d6. Matthew will be 1 to 2, 3 to 4 for Michael, 5 to 6 for Nick. All right, so second choice goes to Nick. And I will say Matthew's 1 to 3, Michael's 4 to 6. So Michael will get third choice, and Matthew will have fourth choice out of the games that are left. But thanks to everyone who entered the contest. I hope you all have a great end of the year and a beautiful 2021 ahead of you. Good gaming, and I'll see you at the next stop.